welcome to my 10th of December garden update in my English Oxfordshire garden. My name's Lindsay and I'm in the greenhouse. In today's vlog I'm going to show you all about the seeds that I'm sowing for my sister's wedding for next year and an update as to what's happening in the greenhouse, what I've got planned for the next few weeks, and this beautiful December update. I have to show you this salvia cutting. So you might remember I took some small cuttings that were about the same size as these ones, and this was the 1st of September. I've potted the ones that were on from sort of this size about 3 times now, and look at the size of it. So I have grown a completely new and healthy plant from this cutting in just a couple of months, which is brilliant. And it'll stay in the greenhouse now until the spring, and I'll put it out come the spring. They can be quite tender salvias, so for this one I'll leave it here. I'm quite protective of it now that I've grown it from scratch. Smells amazing, so yeah, give cuttings a go. I've got to just show you, Neo is in the greenhouse with me. He absolutely loves being wherever I am, and yeah, he's just a very sweet boy, aren't you? Very sweet boy. So first up, I am back to sowing wedding flowers. I have got a whole host of wedding flowers to sow and get ready for my sister's wedding next year. Because I want to have flowers on these plants in June, I am sowing these early. So I've got sweet peas, I have some snapdragons, and I have some cornflowers that I'm all hoping will go for cut flowers for my sister's wedding. And then I'm placing these in the warmest possible spot in the greenhouse in direct sunshine so that they hopefully will germinate. On my greenhouse shelf, I also noticed this sad looking rocket, which I grew or sowed on the 7th of September. So it's been looking pretty sad and not really done much. So I'm going to give it one more chance, and I'm going to prick it out and re-sow it into some fresh compost in the hope that it will give it a bit of life and a fresh burst, and then I might get some rocket plants off of it yet. And I was quite surprised that the roots on these are actually quite long, so I'm hopeful that with a bit of fresh compost, they'll be a little bit healthier and happier in their new home. Rocket is a cold-loving plant, but it can be grown all year round. It's just in the summer that it bolts and goes to seed quite quickly if it gets hot. So I do like to grow it this time of year, and you can also grow it from seed on a windowsill, somewhere warm inside, and take it back outside once it's germinated too. So definitely give rocket a go. Right, I got totally distracted by finding that rocket. I'm now going back to sowing wedding flowers. These are cornflowers. When I first found cornflowers, I thought you could only buy them in the blue variety, which is the ones that you very often see as the native wildflower in the UK. But you can really find loads of different colours of these cornflowers now. So my sister's looking at sort of pastels and peaches for her flowers. So there's all sorts that I'm growing, about 6 different varieties and colours, and they are quite papery. They dry very well. You can store them a long time after they're cut. They have a lovely vase life as well, so they're perfect for cut flowers, but they're also really, really pretty in the garden. They're quite tall and sort of willowy. They don't have a lot of foliage on them, so they're very nice to come through in between different plants or bunched together with lots of different colours. They're quite appealing to pollinators. The bees love them. So yeah, I just think these are a really, really good all-rounder. Because I'm not entirely sure how many of these will germinate, I'm going to sow them all, as you can see, into one container. You could put them all into individual cell trays, but I prefer to prick them out once they've actually grown and got stronger seedlings. So if I get a good amount of germination, I should have about 15 plants, I'd say, coming from this tray, and then I'll plant them into individual cells once they've got big enough to transport and to grow on their own. I've covered these with a plastic lid just to create a little bit more warmth for germination, and also because they're much more self-watering then. You shouldn't need to water any plants in the greenhouse this time of year more often than a couple of times a month, just because there's not enough heat to disintegrate the water in the soil. but having the lid on them just creates this little microclimate that sort of self-waters, keeps everything damp, and keeps it all a little bit warm as well. Next up are all these different varieties of sweet peas. So I've got 6 different varieties here, all different colours. Some are single flowered and some are double. I know that some people like to soak their sweet pea seeds and they have great success with that. I also saw on Instagram the other day somebody that had germinated them on kitchen roll indoors, which I thought was a brilliant idea, and then sort of used that as the seedling to transport. But I have sown these into individual cell trays because they are quite large seeds, and I'm hoping that I'll get a good, decent germination off of these as well. Then my plan is to save an area of the vegetable patch this year just for the cut flowers, and to plant all of these out in rows so that they are sort of protected from the dogs trampling on them and the wind and all of that. And hopefully we'll have a very, very strong and healthy growth because of how good the soil is in the veg patch. My third sowing of broad beans have come up great, so these are going to be planted out as soon as we get a little bit of dry weather. The Aridcaron, which is Mexican fleabane, and Sweet Williams are doing great. The bulbs that I have planted for Christmas have been a little bit inconsistent. They're quite small, but I'm going to put these in the house soon anyway because they still smell divine. And I also have some sweet peas that I planted out a little while ago. And these ones are just for my own garden. The veg patch is definitely looking more empty, but the garlic have started to come up, which is great. I was a little bit worried we'd had so much rain they might be rotting, but they've started to sprout. I have plenty of salad and quite a lot of greyhound cabbages. Still no hearts on these, but I'll keep them going. I've got lots of beetroot, lots of lettuce to keep me going for winter salads and stews. My first sowing of broad beans are still pretty tall. I need to put something around them just to secure them because they are getting a bit floppy. And I have lots of oriental greens that are quite happy to last through the frosts, as well as leeks that are great for soups and stews, and lots of curly kale, which gives a never-ending supply of iron. And last but definitely not least, and I'm going to show you what these are like to eat next time on the vlog, the mango wurzels. And this is the first year I've grown these. Wish me luck. Now that we are well and truly into the festive season, I wanted to show you my twist on the traditional bread and butter pudding. This brioche chocolate orange with walnuts bread and butter pudding is a dessert that is so easy to make and your guests will love over Christmas. I'm starting by buttering the dish that I'm going to be cooking this in and preheating the oven to about 200 degrees. Then I've got the brioche, and look at this. It's beautiful. I'm almost a bit too upset to break it up, but I have. The next stage is to make the custard, which is what makes this pudding so rich and delicious. So I've beaten some eggs, and then I am adding a carton of cream and then equal measures of full fat milk as well. It'll be quite runny, but don't worry too much because it'll thicken up in the oven. But give it a good mix anyway. I also like to add some grated nutmeg. You could also add cinnamon or ginger or any other festive spices that you would like. And at this stage, to me, it looks just like eggnog. So I've torn the brioche to shreds, much to my disappointment, and I've added that in with the chopped up chocolate. And I'm just sort of laying that in with a few chunks of butter. You don't need to add it, but it is delicious. And then I've put some walnuts on the top and I am pouring over the custard mixture. Now, if you wanted to make this boozy, you could add some spiced rum or some brandy or something equally delicious. I have just left this as plain custard. The brioche will soak all of that up in the cooking process and it will become a sort of oozy but quite firm cake. And then for pure perfection, I have added some granulated sugar. You can use brown. And then I've also put some crunched up walnuts on the top for extra crunch. I have a lid with this dish, so I put it on, but you really don't need one. I just like it because it's cute. This goes in the oven for 30 minutes, and when you take the lid off, it has risen and solidified, but is also kind of oozy as well, and is just absolutely gorgeous.